particular. Okay. Are you acting as observer, or Michael, do you want something to say something, or what?
No, I just thought I talked with Paul a little earlier in the week or last week, I guess it was, and I just thought I'd come and sort of give a little bit of context or thoughts about the bucket truck, which I know the
Okay,
committee's talked about a little bit.
all right, that's great. That's very soon on the agenda. Let's quickly get there, okay? Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. It is, I'm not sure what time it is. Let's assume it's 2:03 on January 9th, 10th, 9th. Uh, the first order of business is the approval of the minutes of December 12th. If
So moved.
motion been made, is there a second? Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay, the motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Motion passes. Thank you. Any public comment? Well, nobody here except Michael. We'll get back to that. Okay, the first order of business is the Tree City update. Nicole, do you want to give, is there anything we need to know since the last meeting?
Nope. All, as I mentioned during the last meeting, all the paperwork, and materials were submitted prior to the deadline. I checked the portal. I had to do it, through like an online portal. And I checked that yesterday and it just still says review pending from, the state. So
Okay,
it takes them a while. I think what the process is that they'll, notify us that we're officially, officially a tree city, and we would, they would notify us of what the steps are for press or for, anything else. And then I suppose there's a chance they could ask a question or ask for more backup. But I think we've got it all, so we should be in the clear. Hopefully next month we'll have, confirmation.
that's great.
Yep.
You put a lot of hard work into this. And Michael, once we are approved, we'd obviously want to publicize this, that we are a tree city, and get, I realize I guess we'll be open to some grants and also, Nicole.
We will, yeah, there's more assistance, more grants. There's a lot that we can, do with that. There's actually, even just more resources as we talk about the, tree ordinance and things of that nature. So we have a lot more access to really at the state level, actually, through the Arbor Days. In Massachusetts, it's the authority is through DCR, so their whole, tree program or whatever that is. But yeah, just FYI, because once I logged in and kind of have a new access for our town for Bridgewater, the last time I think we were a tree city officially was like 2012. So there's been there's been a pretty substantial lapse in time, and now if we can get this back on, it's an annual thing. So someone just needs to go ahead and, resubmit every year. But now that we have it all in place, it should be very easy. It would be updating dates, updating like anything that changes, but it shouldn't be all that much once we get now that we did all the heavy lifting.
That's great. I hope we will get some new plaques to put up from the old ones. And I noticed, I forgot where it was. I went through one town that said that they were a tree city, and then they had since like 1905, whatever. I'm exaggerating, of course, but they commented that they advertised the fact that they were they've been a tree city for a long time. In any case, that's great, Nicole. Thank you. All right, the second item on the agenda is the Forestry Department bucket list. Paul, Michael, either one of you want to comment?
I'll just lay out a little bit just on Nicole's Tree City update. Absolutely, once you get any word from excuse me, from them, we'll advertise that and push it out on a press release and really highlight that, because I think that's really important. And it's a nice accomplishment for this committee, certainly. So we want to highlight kind of the successes that we have. So we'll definitely do that. On the bucket truck. So I thought, just based on my discussion with Paul, I thought it would be important to come and just sort of give you a sense of the process. We are two separate things: capital process and then the operational budget process. So we're in the process of putting together both the capital plan and the operational budget for 25. We're just starting the operational budget work right now, so we know what the priorities are. Obviously, roadways department has been a focus of ours for a while, so we're trying to make sure that we can fund as much as possible there. And when I say roadways, it's however, that includes, a potential tree division or employees that are devoted towards tree maintenance and planting and removal. So we'll go through that process. I think I'd mentioned to this committee, and it's not something that is necessarily a matter of public record, so I'll only tell you, what I can in an open meeting. We have been in discussions with the union. It's the ASME union. We've been in discussions with them for a long time now about creating an actual position, a tree warden position, and how we describe that, how we come up with that job description is really what we're sort of negotiating around now. They've been, for some reason, been a little bit reluctant to entertain this discussion, but I think we need to force the issue now, just because it's the right thing to do. So that the operational side, just want to let you know where we stand there in terms of budget process. On the capital process, so what will happen is committee makes a recommendation about a bucket truck or whatever pieces of equipment are needed by the department in order to have a somewhat robust tree division or tree section. And then Paul will convert your recommendations into capital request forms, and which are pretty extensive forms that go through, what's the estimated cost of the piece of equipment that you're looking for, what's the value of the operational value of the piece of equipment, what will it allow us to do, what kinds of contract money will it save us, it's the whole 9 yards. So Paul will fill that out and then submit that. That goes into the sort of the bucket of all the capital request items, and then it goes through a review process, and there's sort of a multi-step review process for all of our capital needs, and then and at that point it gets put on the capital improvement plan. The council and the finance committee will adopt that plan. They can make amendments to it, they can make adjustments to it, but generally, they'll adopt that plan. And then once they've adopted the plan, then we, to the extent that we have the funding, we piece out items that appear in fiscal 24, put those on an appropriation, and then get the finance committee and the council to vote that appropriation for capital within FY 24, and then obviously each successive fiscal year after that. So the capital plan, the capital improvement plan, is a 5-year document, rolling document. We actually look 10 years out so that we may be plugging stuff in. I'm not talking about tree equipment, but there are items that we know are out there that will have to be addressed in year 8 or year 10. So we want to make sure that those appear on the capital improvement plan to some extent, even though we're really focused on the 5-year look ahead. So that's so that gives you just sort of an idea of the process. So I don't know where your recommendation stands on the truck necessarily, but I just wanted to make sure that once you make a recommendation, presumably to purchase a truck, how that process works from there on out.
Are we talking July? In other words, next fiscal year for all this, for the truck and for the tree warden, et cetera?
Probably. There are a lot of, it depends, I guess. But realistically, you're probably looking, it's taken, literally, we've been in discussions with the union for years, couple years at least. So that we have to resolve, and then the, capital submission, is going on right now. So it's timely. So the capital improvement plan will be presented to the council, probably their first or second meeting in February, prior to the April 1st operating budget. So it's very timely.
Are all the items linked together? In other words, is the bucket truck and the tree warden combined, or can they be separate items?
Well, they're separate. They're separate in the sense that obviously an employee isn't a capital purchase. An employee is accounted for in the operational budget. But part of our analysis actually hits exactly on that. We don't want to buy a piece of equipment if we can't fund the person to run the piece of equipment, and vice versa. We don't want to bring in a highly skilled employee to run a piece of equipment that we can't afford to buy. So those two things are sort of go together, and sort of a very basic 30,000-foot level, I guess.
A couple other quick things, and I'll open up to others. If is the where was I? I don't know if you, in terms of the tree warden, we've talked to Bill already, but the state has guidelines regarding what a tree warden should be. I'm sure you've looked at it. If not, I'm just pointing that out. And also there is $27,500 right now in the tree budget. We've asked I believe Emily has already come to you about $6,000 of that money, which we've approved to go to trees at the senior center. The hotel at the NIP was approved with conditions at the last meeting, and they've agreed to give us another $25,000 up front. So I'm not sure where that money stands. In other words, there'll be $50,000 there. Whether it's obviously your call, but whether it's going to stay and be allocated strictly for trees or tree care or towards, say, a bucket truck. Just saying that there is money there right now that possibly that can be used.
Yeah, no, that as I probably mentioned before, I mean, I take this committee's recommendations really as it pertains to that money. My suggestion is that knowing that Paul has a list of takedowns that he tries to tackle every year, and we really have no list of tree plantings, that it would be kind of important to allocate most of those funds towards tree planting and care.
I agree.
Yeah. So and honestly, if we look for a piece of capital equipment, what we have been doing and our practice has been to do lease purchases of those, so that we're not looking at a huge upfront cost. So if you instead of a $300,000, well, the fire department's a good example. So an engine now is $1 million. So instead of $1 million, coming sucked out of the capital plan, we do a 5-year payment plan, essentially, maybe $200,000 a year, and that's easier to stomach and easier to ladder out the capital purchases over time when you do it that way. So that's been successful for us. We haven't, we've been very lucky. We've been in a very low interest rate environment, so the carrying costs for those lease purchase programs is very, it's almost nothing. Interest rates are a little different now, so the wisdom of continuing on the lease purchase versus a flat out purchase, we're constantly reviewing, but we're still inclined to do a lease purchase, just so that we can. And keep in mind, it's not only trucks and loaders at the highway department or roadways department. It's police cars, fire engines, ambulances. So we're pretty efficient about laddering out some of these equipment needs and making sure that we can provide relatively new equipment that's not gonna break down, and do it in as cost effective a way as possible. So we just try to keep everybody happy.
Good. Any other questions for Mr. Dutton, folks?
No, thank you for that.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
positive.
hope that helps. And as I've often said, I am probably quietly the biggest advocate for making sure that we can care for trees, the trees we have, and then make sure that we can tend to the trees that are past their prime, so that they don't injure folks, as you see all over the place recently. So we'll get there, and it has taken some time, and I'm trying to keep my patience with some of the things we got going on in terms of negotiating, but if you see me hurling myself out the academy building window, you'll know why.
Well, if you do that, pick the first floor.
I'll probably land in a tree,
That's right.
and it'll need repair.
Shirley, you're muted, Shirley. Still muted. There you go.
Is it possible to begin looking for a tree warden? It's not going to be easy to find one, I don't believe, depending on what the qualifications may be. But an arborist is sort of hard to come by around this area, and that would be ideal if we could. But should we begin to look? Is it too early to do that?
So it's never too early. We can't. We did advertise a position a while back, Paul. I don't even remember what the title was, but we know that we want to make changes to the job description or create an entirely new position, and that's where we're obligated to negotiate that with the union. So we can't necessarily go out and advertise until we've resolved that negotiation with the union. That said, are we always looking for competent, quality people, regardless of whether or not we're advertising? Yeah, we do, and HR does a great job of that, constantly looking out for people in all facets, not just trees. I mean, finance folks. We're always looking for good people. So I guess sort of yes and no, Shirley, to answer your question.
Good. Anybody else?
I have to say, this is so exciting to me. This looks like it may be a reality in a reasonable amount of time. Arborists, yeah, you're right. They're very, very difficult to find, but they're out there.
And we have, to Bill's point, if we can find, we have no problem, reaching out and talking to people. We do a lot of talking to people that, where there's no job posting yet. We do a lot of discussions with people. So if there is somebody out there that has a remote interest, we will talk to them. Absolutely.
Good. Hey, go ahead, Shirley.
We are fortunate enough to be in an area where there are some vocational institutions that may be able to provide us with names and resources. So I'm suggesting that maybe we move that. We're going to be coming on to the end of a school year, and there may be young people looking for jobs that might be able to be blended into what we're looking for. I'm just hoping that we can kind of get the ball rolling and not stagnate here.
Yep, no, that's a point well taken. We actually do have a pretty good relationship with a bunch of the tech schools. We attend their job fairs on a fairly frequent basis. There are community colleges that have I'm not aware of tree programs, but, water and sewer, certification and licensing, programs. And we've gotten some great, employees out of those, community college programs. So that's
Good.
point very well taken.
Anybody else? Well, we appreciate this, Michael. I just want to, on a personal note, I just want to make sure clarification here. I mentioned to you before that I'm going to resign from the planning board, which is coming shortly. I believe you said that if they vote me as a representative, I could stay on this board, correct? Okay,
That's my view of things. Absolutely.
okay,
Yeah. And I think again, on a personal level, I think your input on the tree committee is really important. So,
This is an excellent committee. If you have people like this on your other boards, things will just move along quickly.
yeah, we don't have anything like this.
Right. Good. Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, I will let you get to the real business, but I appreciate you listening to me.
Thank you,
And
Michael.
let me know about the Arbor Day Foundation or whatever it is, and the Tree City designation, and we'll get that advertised pronto. I think that'll be great.
Yeah, and once we settle on the forum, which we have settled for the date, we'll let you know about the details. Maybe you can publicize that also on the town website.
Absolutely.
But-
Absolutely.
Just a correction to what I said before too. The last time we were officially a Tree City was 2006. So I think I said 2012. I was thinking of something else. So yep, it's been a long time. So we can add that to the press release.
So Nicole, do you know when we were first designated a tree?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if this is accurate, it was between 96 and 2006, continuously every year.
We can say we've been a Tree City since 1996 with a brief period
A little
of time
break.
spent in tree jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And I laugh because all those 10 years, it says that our application was approved and it says our application was submitted by John Doe. I don't know if the system puts it in that way or if somebody did that to be funny or if we really had a John Doe. So who knows?
I don't think we had a John Doe on the payroll. That was before my time.
Right.
Or maybe we had a lot of John Does on the payroll. I don't know.
Right, exactly.
Good.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And I will let you have productive time at your meeting now. So appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you, Michael.
Thank you.
Very good. Item 3, mitigation. Nicole, I believe you surely just want to discuss it and we'll talk more about it at the next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Yeah, I think we just wanted to dust, I think at one point, and it probably was one of our summer meetings, I don't know if everyone was here. We did have a little bit of time to kind of go through some of the research, particularly that Shirley had been doing with looking at other towns and how they kind of enforce or collect mitigation funds using these like particular formulas for taking down protected trees, I guess whatever we would define as protected. I think at the time, my understanding was that, Ray, you may have almost been, we had been talking about this because we were talking about some of the mitigation funds that the planning board has been collecting for various projects. And we were kind of looking for more of like a formal like formula of some sort to be able to use that information maybe as guidance, right, to the planning board. One thing I've been thinking a lot about is the fact that when I kind of went back and looked at all of that research, all of those mitigation, all of the mitigation formulas that those other towns use coincide with the fact that they have a tree ordinance that protects, that has some level of protection of private trees. So in other words, it first says, we don't want anybody cutting down a tree of this caliber or greater, or something like that. So that's the standard. if you cannot protect the tree, you then get kicked into requiring the mitigation funds. So I did hear something in the last meeting when Josh was talking about the tree ordinance that we have here in Bridgewater, which I understand to be only protecting public trees. So I
Right.
felt that I just want to put that back on the table, because if we are planning to expand any recommendations to protecting private trees, I think that's kind of like the first step. And we almost went about that in a roundabout way, Shirley, because we were saying, like, if you cut this tree down, this is how much you owe. Whereas the first step would really be like, we shouldn't be taking down these amount of trees, or maybe we shouldn't be clear cutting these percentages of lots based on our zoning codes and things like that. So I just wanted to bring that back on the table. We can dust back off and kind of create a formal recommendation to the planning board, I guess, of how we would recommend that they collect these mitigation funds, which we already almost have. We just have to formalize, that memo. I guess I'm just looking for feedback and validation of what the exercise is, because we've got the research. And I feel like holistically, we all want to do the same thing, but it's how are we going to enforce? How are we going to be consistent?
Go ahead, Pat. You're muted, Pat.
Thank you. Don't we have to have an ordinance that covers that so that then it can be enforced? Or would it be new language in the ordinance that we're working on for the for the town trees? It's got to be a regulation so it can be
Yeah.
enforced.
I think it's going to come under the ordinance that you're working on now. And as I understand in reading other towns, the enforcer is the tree warden.
Warden. Mhm.
Yes.
So there's a real connection there that we need to work on. I would hope that we would continue to expect that the tree warden will be the enforcer and write that in so that that's one of the job descriptions that goes out for advertising this position.
Right.
But he still have an ordinance that he can enforce. So we have to
Right.
do that even before we get him or her.
Yes, that's right.
Because
Yeah.
the
And
other.
and I think,
One at a
ahead.
time. Nicole?
I agree. Well, I was just going to say the other towns that have the ordinance for the protection of private trees, they have an ordinance. You protect the tree. If you can't protect the tree, they also have like replacement, you can, if you take one down, you have to plant 7 or 6 of, there's a certain formula for doing that. Or there's a certain formula for providing funds to the town for them to put into their tree bank so
Yeah.
that they can plant more trees, which is
Right.
basically what you have been informally doing as part of the planning board process.
Is the ordinance you're looking at based on the number of trees or simply a tree? In other words, if somebody wants to take a tree down their backyard, if I want to take a tree down, would that kick in the mitigation, or does it kick in after when you're talking about, a grove of trees, 10 or 12 trees? Are we talking about numbers here or not? You know what I'm saying?
It goes by the size of the tree and the species of the tree. So if it is basically these towns have a list of protected trees and species and of a certain caliber. So yes, some of those are that far reaching that if you, like Newton or someone, if you want to take an individual huge oak tree down on your property, it requires a permit. They will let you take it down if it's unhealthy and would be dangerous. So that's no question. But if it's not causing issue, then you do need to either replace to a certain value, a number of trees, or pay into that mitigation bank.
Well, what if I want to take down, I've got a number of large pine trees around the house that could be potentially dangerous to the house. If I want to take 2 of them down, would that mitigation kick in or no?
Only if I have never seen just those scrubby pines being protected on some of those lists. I don't know if you did, Shirley. It was, the lists were similar to actually what Pat's list that she pulled together for the recommendations for what we would want planted. But it tends to be maples, oaks,
Okay.
dogwoods, birch, those types of, trees. It's usually not scrubby, brushy. I guess it's what you could call heritage trees or protected trees. Plus, they also need to be, of a certain caliper or greater, usually 7.5 inches. So small diameter trees on one's property, at least in those other towns, are not protected. But what we also had brought up that is relevant here in Bridgewater, I felt, is clear cutting.
Yeah,
Right.
That is, and that could be hundreds of acres of, a combination of different things. So when we get to that point, we did find precedent for other towns, limiting clear cutting, particularly in side setbacks, rear setbacks, buffers to resources, things like like wetlands, wells, all of those types of things. So, if there's parameters around where you want to protect, it's almost like that's step one. Then if you can't abide by that, well, then we collect more money. But I think the protection piece of it, I would love to get in there on the protection piece of it too, so that all of these things are consistent. We are trying to protect it, and there's a clear understanding of what is important to our town for preserving.
When you talk about clear cutting, are you talking about, how do you define clear cutting in terms of acreage? You talking about half an acre or 25 acres? Or is there a formula there?
We would
Yeah.
have to define it. I'm trying to remember what I did see, things in maybe the 10,000, square, so probably like a quarter acre or more. We could define what we think is considered clear cutting.
Yes.
At the scale we're doing development, I would say, probably a quarter acre or maybe even like an 1/8 acre, we could, start there,
mhm.
just given what our town has, right,
Yeah.
and what is happening.
And then beyond that, it would be a percentage
It's-
for, a potentially developable piece of land, right?
Right. Because, if you purchase a completely wooded site, but you are in a certain zoning district, so by right, you can cover your lot with a, whatever it is, business, residence. And there's all of those, our zoning codes provide lot coverages, but they are certainly not 100% of a lot. Yet
Right.
we are clear cutting 100% of lots.
Right.
So it's really the parameters of everything else. I mean, I don't think in my opinion, it wouldn't necessarily be realistic to like, enforce the whole lot, but it's really just everything outside of your development footprint, what you're allowed to build, your parking and your road and your building. The everything else is what we would want to protect. And as you,
Right.
clear cut more and more and more of that, you could, first of all, try to protect it. And then if not, put some formula around it for collecting mitigation funds that can offset tree planting elsewhere.
Okay, so essentially what you and Shirley are coming up with is a plan to define what can be cut. And if it is going to be cut, there's going to be a formula as to a monetary payment, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh,
I'll be anxious to look at what you come up with. I think there's got to be some leeway in terms of what can be done.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, and I think we're talking large, from a single, I don't think we want to make homeowners, maybe we could exempt single family if we want, I think we want to be realistic, but I think some of those large diameter trees that we do have in this town that are healthy, we certainly want to protect those.
Well,
So-
you could even it could even be inserted into the zoning. There's a portion now regarding large projects. It
Mm.
could even be there,
Yeah,
where
Yeah.
if it's defined as a large project, then this kicks in at that point. And mitigation, you must, I mean, the money we're getting from the hotel, I just threw out the number and
Yep.
they agreed to it because they wanted to put it in. But it may be more, maybe less. I don't know. I'm just saying it could be good to put it in. Yeah, so there would be no argument.
Yes, agree. You know, it's like,
Okay.
what's important, you know, these particular species and these particular diameters when we're talking about single trees. And then in terms of clear cutting, defining what we think clear cutting is, and then basically talking about where we want to avoid clear cutting is basically where you're not allowed to build anyway.
It sounds like, it
Yeah.
sounds like we're gonna need some time to talk about this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Not only that,
definitely. Yeah, it's
not
so,
only that, I think we may have to do some site visits, particularly on a new development that might be coming in. If there's a lot of land involved and a lot of possibilities, we might want to look at that before we come up with a stringent formula, to see what it's going to look like on the ground.
Okay. Pat,
I know that I have read that there are some restrictions that can be applied if someone buys land and clear cuts it before they make the application. So we have to address that as well. I
Yeah.
mean, because we're
Right.
talking about,
Right.
you know, our response to them
Right.
with their application, but we have to also have that protection ahead of them.
That's a good point. I think someplace in the zoning or wherever it is, there's a item that allows if in terms of earth removal, the person has to go to the planning board prior to any large amounts of earth removal. That could be what you're saying, Pat, could be duplicated with trees.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. I mean, this is positive. I'm obviously things like this take time, but it sounds like
Oh, yeah.
it's going to be good. All right.
So,
Anybody else on mitigation? So are we going to be talking about the next meeting,
it's
Nicole?
raining.
Nicole, okay. we'll have
Yes,
a
yes,
follow-
let's put it on the agenda. I mean, maybe we take, maybe the first step is everybody agreeing what we need to protect on private. You
Okay,
know,
if
being
you-
realistic, knowing we aren't, you know, Wellesley, and we don't want to make everybody's life miserable in this town, you know, for taking any little tree, but there's definitely very important things. So I think maybe prioritizing what is important.
Right.
Um,
Maybe if you and Shirley could get a draft to us prior to the meeting, we can go over. it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Josh, on the pamphlets, we have an issue?
Yes, a small issue, and really it's kind of big. Well, I'm hoping it's not big. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, just so you guys can follow along with me for a second. So when I was working on getting, so they don't do stickers at the print center, so I was trying to figure out a way we could maybe work a label on there prior to the printing, so you guys didn't have to do stickers and print labels and things like that. So I was looking in the sides of the pamphlet, and I noticed that this said "Dear Member." So that kind of just it stood out to me a little bit. So I went ahead and I went to the Arbor Day website just to see if I could get you know a new copy, see if there's a new copy out. One that didn't say member because you know we're going to be passing these out and we're passing them out to non-members essentially. And what I found was that this is actually part of a membership to Arbor Day. So it's included in, I'll bring up the Zoom or the shared screen on that. So I think it's like $50 a year, and you get, and part of the benefits of the membership it's in this little tree book. So you can't actually get the pamphlet that we were going to print for free from Arbor Day. So I didn't want us to print 2,000 of these pamphlets and then pass them out for free when arborday.org charges for them as part of their membership. So I'm not sure if this tree book that they're talking about in the membership part of the website is like an updated one, because the one that we have that I was going to print is from 2008. So that's why, Ray, I had reached out to you. So I think it might be worth reaching out to arborday.org and just seeing if they'd be okay with us printing these and handing them out, because we would be doing so for free, and they would be receiving any
If we were to join, would that solve the problem?
I don't think so. I mean, they could have, they might be okay with it. If Bridgewater, the town of Bridgewater joined as a member, they might be okay with us passing out. That's why I wanted to, that's why I figured if you reached out, you could find out as part of the committee rather than us finding out as, part of the town. If they needed us to, if they could send over some type of just wording saying that'd be okay for us to print this, that'd be the biggest thing.
Okay, all right, I'll check and see. So,
But the issue I didn't want us running into is, like I said, printing 2,000 of these, passing them out for free when Arbor Day charges for them.
okay,
One thing I did notice though on the website, I had shared another pamphlet. I don't know if it was that same one, but their printing fee is so small. You can
Hmm.
get like 5,000 for, like $50 or something like that. So
Yeah, they have other guides that we had looked at.
yes, we did.
And
we didn't-
those ones are available to be printed. This one I couldn't find on the website at all. So that's why I was thinking it might have been part of the membership, or like an updated version might be part of their tree book or something along those lines. Because like I said, in the pamphlet, it does address you as a member. So that's probably why it's not readily available on the website. That's
Let's see.
all.
Well, we are gonna be a member any day now. Technically, I think it's the same as the Tree City designation.
Okay, so we wouldn't have to pay for it then?
I doubt that because I'm sure it's
Yeah.
a much better for them. I don't think they're gonna give it away to us.
No. Maybe a few as part of our like promotion materials that we receive at first, but it's not gonna be thousands. It would probably be 5, so.
well, if they even if they okay that we can print it, then we can do that. It's just
Yeah.
the getting the permission to do it.
Yeah, and like I said, it's an older pamphlet, so they might just say, yeah, that's fine. If we have that in writing, that'd be perfect. I'll get it printed and get it over to you guys. And even if you could ask that, if they did say, okay, if we could put our little logo on there as well, just so people could reach out to us. They might just have rules and stipulations on that. That's all.
Yeah.
How about if Nicole, Josh, and myself, between now and the next meeting, we try to settle this and give a report back to the group? Is that okay?
Good.
I'll check with the Arbor Day. And we should be able to find somebody that will allow us to print a couple hundred of them. It should be.
Yeah.
Okay, is that okay? All right. Okay, senior center, it's quick. We voted at the last meeting, $6,000 for the senior center trees, I believe 3 or 4 trees it was. And Emily is pleased, she thanks us for it, and she is working with Michael on it, so nothing else to report on that. The tree ordinance, we're going to talk about the next meeting. It was my mistake, I neglected to remember that we had set it to February, and if Bill and Josh, you can get us a draft prior to the February meeting, so we can be half intelligent when we talk about it, that would be great. Okay. All right, the last thing in old business is the forum, which I'm a little concerned with. We have let me just go through this. We have the date set. It's March 12th, Tuesday at 6:30 at the library, which we changed it at the last meeting, and the library's fine. If we're ever going to change it again, we should do it once and for all, do it now. But I think that I don't see that's a problem. Is that okay with everybody? Okay. It's in person. One of the issues that has to be resolved is, are we doing a webinar, or are we doing, this is going to be in person, but we're going to also have a webinar or a Zoom. There are issues with both. Some of you know, Errol Domingo, who was instrumental in putting on the book banning forum at the library a few months ago. And I did reach out to her, and she said there are issues that we should talk to Josh to, it's the library, the, head of the library, I forgot him already, to, work out. So we should decide whether we want to have people be able to, you know, go back and forth with us during the meeting with the Zoom, or just type in questions in terms of webinar, or neither. No, just have it in person. That has to be decided. The topics, I recommended, somebody speaking about the, importance of trees overall in terms of the environment. Somebody else speaking about the, trees that are indigenous to New England and the importance of trees here. And then a third person talking about, the care and planting of trees, or maybe just use two people. We don't have that etched in concrete at this point. Now, we still don't have people. Bill is looking at a couple of possibilities in terms of a arborist, his firm that may want to do it. We need somebody from the college, I think, to talk about the importance of trees for the environment. I know James was going to look into it. I haven't heard from him. So my recommendation is that we have a subcommittee that works on this between now and the next meeting, so we could try to get this thing going. If you're willing to do that, I mean, obviously I'll be on it, maybe one or two others of you here that might want to help. I think we need to do this not just at each meeting, but between meetings to get this done. Any thoughts on this? That's just my recommendation.
Well, Ray, as we talked, we've probably got 6 or 7 arborists, certified arborists at my old tree company. And I brought it up the other day with them. And my son and my nephew seemed to be the most interested. The other guys, the first question was, what are we going to get paid? And it's in the evening. You know, these guys are all hands-on tree men, but I can pursue with my son and my nephew and see if I could get a, you know, just kind of a favor to me to go down and talk about indigenous trees, or I'd like to see a topic on elm trees where we're planting those Herbie elms. But I'll keep working, you know, I'll see if I can get some more interest up. But unfortunately, I'm going to be in Florida beginning March 1st. So I won't be around.
Shirley?
I think we should offer a stipend for this kind of activity. It's nice for people to volunteer, but when you're working a full shift and have to come out at night and continue with your job, so to speak, I think you ought to get paid for it. And we may not have to pay at the highest rate, but we should offer them something, I think.
I have no problem with that. Josh, can you check with Michael to see whether that's how we can proceed with that?
A stipend for the speakers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much you think is reasonable, folks? 200? I was gonna say the same thing. Anybody
Per
else?
person,
Per person.
Yeah. per person, right?
Is that fair?
I think that's generous.
Generous, yeah.
All right.
We're only
Um,
talking about 15 or 20 minutes.
Well, we're talking about a presentation of maybe 15 minutes, but also being there the entire time to answer questions.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then-
I've seen some that are like you're just getting reimbursed for your travel expenses if anybody's come, you know, so, you know, even $50 would probably be appreciated just for gas and dinner or whatever if you're, you know, but yeah, anything between 50 and 250 seems probably,
How about 100?
yeah.
It's interesting that you say that. I do presentations at libraries. and I'm doing one next week. And they assume that, they're gonna give a stipend. I don't take any, but I mean, they assume that, they're gonna give something out, so I guess we should. Josh, maybe you could check with Michael as to how we.
Yeah, I'll check with them and see what's available for that.
All right. Um,
We are doing this face to face, right?
correct.
This is not gonna be a Zoom presentation. It's going to be an in-person.
Oh, hybrid. I thought we decided both.
So, and we will, depending on who goes, we will have to post it as a tree committee meeting as well, if there's a quorum of members.
Okay,
So it's not a big deal. We just need to do the posting requirements and things like that.
right.
And then if once you finalize everything, we can also get it published on the website and Facebook to help advertise.
Yeah, I'm just nervous. I don't want to, if we're going to do something, this is our first thing as a committee doing something. I don't want to have this flop. I like to have a good presentation. I like to have a lot of people there. You know, if we can get 20, 30 people, I would feel that's a success. Do you think we should not do a hybrid? Should it simply be in person?
Mm,
Something you're saying or no?
I think you're starting off, why don't we just do an in-person forum first and see how it goes? It seems to me that it gets a little bit complicated with going to Zoom and then
Well, as I mentioned earlier, Bill, Jed, who was the director of the library, he was part of the presentation on book banning a couple months ago, and he also knows electronics well. And I guess he was important in terms of making sure everything worked. It did work, and Carol Domingo recommended that when we do this, we not do a Zoom, we do a webinar. In other words, that people will not be able to speak. They'd have to ask questions through the chat. But I'm open to either thing. To me, the important thing is getting as many people as possible. And if we can do a webinar, fine. If not, Pat?
I think that if we offer a webinar or Zoom, it will really limit our in-person attendance. I know that's the way I feel. If I can watch you people, I will do that rather than drive downtown.
Mhm.
Well, they had about, the book banning thing, they had about, I guess 25 people in person. I'm not sure how many on the webinar. What do the rest of you think? Shirley?
I agree with Pat that I think people will stay home, and then it's hard to identify your audience. I think the other thing is that if we had something that we could sort of hand out, maybe the pamphlets,
Yeah, that's the idea.
even use the pamphlets as part of the program, particularly in picking out trees. How does one tell a maple from an elm, from a oak, etc.? A lot of people don't know the difference. That might be part of the program, showing them the differences in the trees, explaining the differences in their growth patterns, their value as a part of the climate change, things of this sort. The more practical and realistic it becomes, I think, the more apt we are to get somebody and to get some good feedback from it.
Yeah, and on that point, Shirley, it seems to me that the presenters should have PowerPoints to show, if you're going to talk about an elm tree, show an elm tree. You're going to talk about how to plant a tree, show how to plant a tree. I mean, and maybe that goes back to the stipend, that we're also giving somebody money to put together a PowerPoint to make it presentable. But I guess are you all saying that you prefer to have it in person and not something on the web? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think in person's better myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about electronics here, that other than somebody being able to do a PowerPoint, correct? Okay, that's good.
Another we might consider in terms of a giveaway, it'd be nice if we could give them a little seedling or something to home with, but that might be too early to do that. Maybe a bookmark that would have information on it that we could hand out, even if it's a 3-step approach to tree planting or something of that sort. Just a thought.
All right. Hey, again, I'm just repeating myself. My concern now is the presenters. If maybe what you can do, if anybody can think of possibilities of people that could present, that can do a good job, email me. Give me names of people, and I'll try to get somebody. Maybe we could, between meetings, we could try to at least settle on people. Without good people, we're not gonna have a good presentation. in my
Well,
mind.
I think between the college and Bill's company, we've probably got some good resources there. And I don't know who, but Bill certainly would be able to recommend people from his company. And I think we can find people from the college.
Right. Paul, do you think you have any contacts at all?
Say again?
Paul, I'm
Oh,
talking,
no, I'm
Paul, they think you have any contacts?
I don't know, I'm running that through my brain right now, trying to think who would be available to present, or who would have the knowledge to, or the know-how to teach it.
Mm.
Let me stew on that a little bit.
All right, okay, if, let's make it a priority between the now and the next meeting, that we get 3 people. Somebody that can speak to the importance of trees in the environment, and either 1 or 2 people to speak to trees in New England, how to care for them and how to plant them, okay? And if you can think of anybody, please email me.
Okay.
We'll try to settle this, okay?
Mhm.
Fair enough? Okay. All right. In terms of the year, in terms of new business, I have a couple things I want to go through with you. But the first thing is, are there any things we should be working on as a project? I know we talked about a tree survey before. Are there any ideas you think of that should be a priority for the year? I mean, we're moving forward, obviously, on Tree City, and Michael being here at the meeting was, I think, outstanding, that we sounds like we're gonna move towards the tree group. Anything else we should be doing? Yeah, Pat?
I think a priority should be that tree ordinance that we spoke about earlier.
Well, that's
In-
coming. That is coming. We'll be talking about the next
But I
meeting.
mean, not just for our town trees.
What do you mean?
I mean, for private development. So we don't have another preserve or,
Right,
you know,
right.
that's gotta be done.
Yeah, Nicole?
Yeah, I think, well, I do think also that the tree inventory, particularly perhaps along, and maybe it starts in I mean, there's a ton of town-owned land, right? But maybe we prioritize the sort of general downtown area or something like that, because in order to identify where we should plant new trees, we need to find where those gaps are. And sometimes looking at it in the plan, usually the inventory does take note of tree boxes or tree, places where a tree was. Like they'll basically
Right.
note that there's a missing tree.
Right,
Because when I filled out our application for Arbor Day and was only able to say we planted 2 trees, I would love to be able to write next year many, many more. So I think prioritizing getting, trees in the ground somehow will be
Okay.
important. I don't know how, maybe we can work with the schools more, or as we're doing with the senior center, but trying to at least start to get some trees in the ground.
good. 2 things. Bill, I believe you said that the tree inventory should be done by an outside firm.
Well, first of all, the tree inventory is gonna be, the tree warden is gonna be in charge of it.
Oh, true.
And I don't think that, I think we should look more towards a planting program. And put the tree inventory off to a point where we can actually do it.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
That makes sense.
And how do we do the planting program, Bill? Would be, we just decide ourselves as to where trees should go?
So let's look at the way we've done it in the past, back when we were a tree city. The Improvement Association would partner with the town and go down and look at down to the nursery and pick out trees and bring them up here and the town would plant them.
But-
On a very small basis, it would be very easy to start something like that.
Are you also talking about it when you say a program that we look at various spots around town that need trees and we work towards filling those spots
Yes,
long term?
yeah,
Okay,
simple as
Okay.
that.
Hey, Ray,
yep,
to build on that, what Nicole and Bill said. Maybe we should compile a list. I mean, we know town areas as far as, you know, roadside trees and the trees in the common. But make a list of town public spaces. There's a lot of areas that probably everybody doesn't even know about. When we think about planting trees, and the same places always come to mind, but there's town-owned cemeteries, there's little parks here and there, there's little things we could probably have like a database of that.
who would do that?
That started, I guess. I mean, probably have a lot of the information. Just, you know, internally here or.
All right, that would be good. I mean, you would need some help, wouldn't you? I mean, you need somebody to help you with it?
I mean, if somebody wants to, I mean, just not. I don't think it'd be overly complicated, just. There's, I think, 8 or 9 cemeteries that the town owns that most people probably don't know about. And a lot of them have some really, really old dying trees that we're losing that could use some new life. You know, park spaces, Carver's Pond, little areas out back that people sit by the lake and watch. I mean, there's all kinds of places. So yeah, if somebody wants to put our heads together and just jot down a list, that'd be great.
Okay, good. Shirley?
Recently, and I don't know if it came out of this committee, there was an article that came out about planting a little garden of trees,
Yep,
where you
Yes,
plant
sir.
several
Yeah.
trees in a limited space.
yep,
Maybe have a day, pick a site, number one, a conspicuous site, and have a day where members of the town would volunteer to come, or maybe certain members from different committees within the town would come and begin to develop this tree garden. On one day, we get a lot of publicity, we get a new garden of trees somewhere, and that might be something that could kick it off.
well, you know, that coincides with another point, Shirley. We have to do Arbor Day. Maybe that could be an Arbor Day thing.
There you go.
Right.
Sure.
Shirley, you want to head that?
Um,
Wanna look into that?
let me look into that.
Okay.
Open mouth, insert foot.
No, I'll help too, Shirley, and I'm sure other people will too. No, I'm just thinking I was thinking to myself that we have to do Arbor Day again, and we have to
Right.
start thinking ahead of time, and that might be a perfect thing to do. You know?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Anybody else?
I just had one other item that I was, just wanted the committee to, give thumbs up that they're okay if I reach out to ask the question. There is Arbor Day does sponsor a poster contest. And so basically a town can basically has to like administer our own little poster contest and then select the winner, and it goes off to state and even national. So it's something that is part of the Arbor Day celebration for 3rd, 4th, and/or 5th grade. So there's a nice little program. It's all laid out. I wanted to suggest we try to do it this year, maybe just pick one, maybe start with one grade and probably the easiest, which would be 3rd grade, and then maybe expand it each year. But of course we would have to, I guess my question is, I just wanted to gauge interest from the school, and I do know the school principal and the STEM coordinator in the BR schools. So I was just going to send them a quick email with that information to see if they would be interested or have any science teachers that would be interested in participating for their class.
That
Because I
sounds
thought,
great.
I think it's either third grade or fourth grade or fifth grade, so they would be independent contests if you wanted to do all three grades. I think the curriculum though for either third or fourth probably talks about trees, so they would want to connect that. And then I thought, you know, part of the celebration when we announce who wins the contest could also be potentially planting a tree at
All
the
right,
school, which would be the Williams, the intermediate school.
that's great. I mean, there's so much going on now.
Yeah.
Somebody want to help Nicole on this? I think that's important. I think
Yeah, is
it's a great
everyone
idea.
okay if I reach out to Mr. Clark, the principal and the STEM coordinator, just to see, because they might just say we don't have time and that's fine. But I bet they'll say a couple
Yes,
science teachers are interested.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Is that okay with everybody? Okay, and
Okay.
if they do have an okay, would somebody be willing to help Nicole on this?
Yeah, we would need judges.
Well, you have to set it up in the first place. I mean, work with a teacher to,
Work with a teacher, yeah. You talk about the benefits of the trees and then you give the kids the activity and then you give them a couple weeks and then they submit their poster and then there's some formal way of selecting who wins and yeah, it'll be
Okay.
kind of fun.
good. Okay,
Ray,
yeah.
are we thinking of doing anything on election day in April? Like we used to do, or like, I think the BIA used to do it? Give away the seedlings?
Oh, didn't the garden club give away the seedlings last year?
Oh,
I think it was the
Last-
garden club.
somebody did give away something last
It
year.
wasn't BIA. I tell you, my only concern, I mean, this has been a good meeting, but my only concern is now we have a lot of stuff on the plate, it seems.
Yes, yes.
And I'm not sure we want to spread ourselves too thin.
That's okay.
I mean, it's up, I mean, that's an idea, but maybe in conjunction with the garden club, maybe you check on Pat and see if they're gonna do anything. We can talk
Okay.
next meeting.
I'll do
Okay.
that.
Okay. All right, lastly, from me anyway, as I told you, I want to stay on this committee. I'm resigning from the planning board. This committee's been in operation for a year now, just over a year, and we haven't had elections. The planning board has their elections the fiscal year. In other words, the new board goes in, new officers go in on the July meeting. Do you want to have elections now, or do you want to wait till July? That's my first question to you. Don't raise your hands all at once now. Let me put it this, go ahead, Shirley.
My feeling right now is that we've got quite a few irons in the fire. And maybe it might be better to postpone it until July, if that seems agreeable.
I can go either way. Anybody else? All right, if there's no opposition, we will wait till June, second meeting in June, we have an election for new officers. And at that point, I think somebody probably should take over.
Oh, Ray, sorry,
Yeah.
just to interject a little tiny here. Most reappointments happen, they expire in June, so the end of June.
Right,
And then that's when new reappointment starts in July. So even in the handbook, we recommend that's when you do your voting for officers, because you might have either new members or a member drop off, and that way you're not doing it twice.
yeah, okay, that's fine, that's fine. So, that's easy to settle. All right, anybody else? This has been a longer meeting than I normally would have envisioned, but it's been a good meeting, and I'm totally pleased that Michael was on the call. I think that's a positive sign that we will get a forestry department at some point. It may not be as quickly as we want to see it, but I think we're obviously moving in the right direction. And Paul, you know, keep pushing him on this and,
No, he was very, very willing to join, which, you know, like you said, was great. And
yeah,
just
that's good.
coming from him, it just sounded better than me saying, you know, this is what we talked about.
All right. Anybody else? Now I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
Motion made and seconded. All in favor of adjourning this meeting, say aye.
I,
Anybody disagree? The meeting's adjourned.
you.
Have a good
Thank
day, everybody. And hopefully we won't get flooded tonight.
yes,
Like,
please.
It's my concern anyway.
The lake is very, very high right now.
Really? All,
Yeah.
all I care about is power. Power's on, some pump works. Power's off, I've got to pull a generator out, which I don't like doing, especially in the rain. So,
There you go.
good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night.